This video is about the carnivore diet, and if you choose to do it, I will show you how to not screw yourself up and get explosive diarrhea like Joe Rogan. So the carnivore diet continues to become popular, and you can kind of look for it. I was looking at it the other day when some information came across my desk, and so I just decided to just do a quick Google search, Joe Rogan explosive diarrhea, and you can see all these different news outlets covered it. It's really hilarious. And there was a picture in one from a plant-based news outlet, and they showed a picture, or sorry, it was Men's Health. You can see Joe Rogan, and here you can see just he described it like a mudslide, so that was why that picture is there. So there's lots of pictures about it. So here are some of the articles you can see. Men's Health, Insider, and here's plant-based news. You got this perplexed look, however they took that shot. It's probably not about the carnivore thing, but just a perplexed look. So this is what Rogan was eating. He ate a couple, 4 strips of bacon and then liver, which is pretty lean. So he's eating a lean meat diet. That's what he is doing. So this is again plant-based news, and you can see the title that they put in plant-based news. And this is one of the sections. Low-carb diets. There is no evidence about the long-term effects of carnivore, low-carb, or meat-only diets. Well, in fact, this is completely wrong. So the radical vegans, the plant-based diet people, and guys like Rogan, who are playing carnivore now, have no idea about how long this is, how much evidence exists for an all-meat diet. And so this is, I think this came from, they cited this in the plant-based news article. This is from Rogan's Instagram. You can see here, this is the only time in my life I ever tried eliminating carbs completely for more than a day or so. It's completely uncharted territory for me. And he believes this same thing for 99% of the people on Earth. Of course, he does not know. And what I'll show you in a couple of seconds. And you can see here, if I feel fine other than sporadic bouts of hellacious projectile poo. All avoidable, all avoidable. And there is the picture. You can see here that he described. If you read the previous thing, you'll talk about the mudslide. And so that's pretty funny. So how can we figure this out and not get confused by it? Well, you got to understand that, so these latitudes represent the paleo diet, because the paleo diet is actually a latitude diet. Clearly, if you lived in this area here on Earth, your diet would be very different, assuming no industrialization, no goods being sent around, before trade became a big thing. And so outsiders did not come in and bring their goods. So the diet would be very different in this latitude, from this latitude to this latitude to this to this. It all depends upon the food that grows, the vegetation that grows in the area, the fish that you can get, and the animals that you can get. That's the paleo diet. It's a latitude diet. It's not a low carb, high carb, or whatever, because the paleo diet in Greenland will be, in the the Arctic Circle region of northern Canada, it's very, very different. So it'll be a very, very high-fat diet most of the year. So I'll show you that. So if people want to argue that paleo diet is not a latitude diet, well, I've spoken with some of the paleo guys about this, and I've written articles for the paleo diet website. So one I did back, I forget, this was earlier this year, 2021. This was either 2019 or in 2020 I wrote this one, but this is about the COVID stuff. I just did one on migraine headaches and how diet can drive migraine, and then of course reduce migraine. You can see the title, how diet can help or hurt migraines. So the purpose for diet should be one simple goal: to normalize all of your inflammatory markers. So table 3, although it's not necessarily listed as table 3 and table 4, they are found in all 4 of these books. So the goal should be, no matter what diet you choose, to get all of these markers normal. So if you want to find out more about these markers, I describe them the most in this book here, the first book. Okay, so with that in mind, let's look at the history of eating an all-meat, high-fat diet. You got to go back to a great paper published in 1936. So there is a myth now that the omega-3 high-fat diet of the Eskimos was not healthy. Well, completely inaccurate. So what these scientists did back in the 30s is they traveled. You can see the dates of their travel. Where's my pointer? Here it is. You can see their dates of their travel. They traveled around all over the place. And so this would be the Arctic Circle, way northern Canada. So what do we know about the Eskimos up there versus further down? And here's what we're told. A very striking example of the influence of contact with civilized men is seen when the diseases met within the Hudson Bay and Straits are compared with those of the more northerly Arctic Circle area, the Eastern Arctic. The majority of the natives, you can see here, living in the southern area where they have had contact with civilized man, where the sugar and flour came in, the natives there, the Eskimos there, their skin color was pale, and one even had pernicious anemia. And then they went north, where they lived on what? Walrus and other fatty animals. So the colors of their skins and mucous membranes were not only good, but many of them looked plethoric, which just rosy and extremely healthy, and they're living on fat. So how do we know about living on an all-meat diet that is supposed to be mostly fat? Well, one of the greatest explorers ever, Valdemar, I don't know how to say this first name, but Stefansson. He is of Nordic descent from Canada. He wrote a book. It was first called Not by Bread Alone. He changed it to The Fat of the Land. So you can read a lot about, you can just go Google or whatever you use search engine wise, and you can learn about Stefansson, see all the books that he wrote. Look at his first one, 1913, My Life with the Eskimos. So as I'm doing this, it's just at the end of April, so it's April 28th today, I guess it is. Is that right, 28th? Yeah, April 28th, 2021. So you can see over 100 years ago. Oh, look at this, 1921, the friendly Arctic. Well, what was friendly about it? Well, the foods that they ate kept them alive and well, and it was mostly fat in those areas, as you can see. The fat of the land. All right, so when Stefansson came back from his trips, he would tell people, yeah, they live on just fatty animals, and they're healthy and robust. And the scientists living down in North America, and this would, I'll show you in a couple of seconds, this would be in New York City, said, nah, it's not possible, it would kill you. So Stefansson and one of his fellow explorers agreed, so in 1930, it was published in the Journal of Biological Chemistry, Prolonged Meat Diet with a Study of Kidney Function and Ketosis. So this was published in 1930. This is what we were told. Actually, before I go there, remember the low-carb diet, or rather the plant-based news organization I talked about earlier. They said there's no evidence about the long-term effects of a carnivore diet, low-carb or meat-only diets. Well, 1930, you saw 1913. I mean, how out of touch with reality are these people when you have all this information readily at hand with the internet? So this is from the 1930 article. So no evidence about long-term effects of meat only. Really? 1930. It is well known, not just, we just found out, it is well known that Eskimos have lived on an almost exclusive meat diet for generations. The experiences, so generations means, decades and decades, and this was published in 1930. So this has been known for a couple hundred years now. So the experiences of Stefansson and his companions have been given in his book, The Friendly Arctic. Now look at this. He spent over 11 years in Arctic exploration. During 9 years, he lived almost exclusively on meat. So he and one of his colleagues, Anderson, I don't know his first name, voluntarily agreed to eat nothing but meat for 1 year while they continued their usual activities in the temperate climate of New York. It was New York City, actually. They ate their meals at Bellevue. So what did the scientists first have them do? Because people didn't believe that basically the Eskimo diet was mostly fat. You're talking 60, 70% fat, maybe and more in some cases. So what did the scientists have them do? Well, here's what they had them do. At our request, so the scientists' request, Stefansson and Anderson began eating lean meat only, although he had previously noted in the north that very lean meat sometimes produced digestive disturbances. Well, not sometimes, always. On the third day of lean meat, Stefansson and Anderson developed nausea and, diarrhea. So you see, Joe Rogan's uncharted territory, blah, 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 has been charted over 100 years ago. They knew this. Well, this was obviously published in the late 20s, so almost 100 years in terms of this paper, but Stefansson wrote about it in 1913. So when fat meat was added to the diet, a full recovery of nausea and diarrhea was made in 2 days, and Rogan's living on just with horrific projectile diarrhea because no one told him, which is stunning because he has all these people on his show who allegedly should know this, but they don't because, for whatever reason, all he had to do was make it a high-fat diet as opposed to a lean meat diet, or lean diet, a low-fat diet. So this is from the article again. In one instance, you can see when the protein was relatively high. This is actually a different study. Now, this would may have been the same group. Yeah, okay. So this was Stefansson and them. So they're talking about in one instance, protein was relatively high, diarrhea developed. Yeah. So what was the outcome? Fat aided in the regulation of the bowels. Now, no one would ever think this because there's no fiber in fat. I don't know how it works, actually. One could envision maybe it has to do with slipperiness. I have no idea. So high-fat diets. Now watch this. Mayo Clinic. High-fat diets have been used with success at the Mayo Clinic in the treatment of constipation. So this would have been in the 20s that they did this. They did this in the 20s. So down below here, what I've put is table 2 that shows the food intake. So you can see, and what I did is I converted so you can see protein, fat, carbohydrates, and the amount that they were eating right in here. I forget which one I chose now because I put this together a little bit later, but you'll see this would be the diet. You can see so total calories, because it was I counted up slightly different based upon 4, 9, and 4 grams, so slightly different, but close to 2,000. I think I chose this one here. So 372 calories worth of protein. Just make sure I got that right. Yeah, so I did use this one. So on March 2nd, whatever year this was, 1930-something, 28 I guess it was, 372 calories from protein, almost 1,600 calories from fat, and just 28 calories from carbohydrates. So you can see it was a very, very, very high-fat diet. So they don't realize, for whatever reason, the modern-day carnivore people, apparently they're just not describing the historical pattern. If the historical use or the historical essentially latitude-based high-fat diets, for whatever reason, they didn't know. So you can see right here, started meat diet, weakness, nausea, diarrhea. And then they added fat, so you can see what they did here, high protein, low fat, relatively speaking. You can see the outcome. Started meat diet, weakness, nausea, diarrhea, and then rapidly nausea and diarrhea were gone once the high-fat diet, the normal carnivore diet, was employed. So Rogan could have easily have avoided soiling himself, and these poor plant-based confused people who are so anti-meat, it's just mind-boggling. The Arctic Circle Eskimos, when they lived their traditional diet, they were degenerative disease-free for the most part, like other natives from around the world, depending upon, as long as they ate the traditional diet of their latitude. So it's a very, very simple fix. Now, I'm not a big carnivore guy, but if you want to be a carnivore diet, do it properly and just make sure that all your markers are proper. Remember, I put all the markers of inflammation to track in these 4 books. The weight loss book I did not, because the weight loss book is really a psychological book, a mental book to gain power over all the temptations that are driven for us to overeat. So these books are all available, and this just shows the Kindle, but they're all available as paperbacks, and this book is only available as a paperback. So there's single copies you can get at Amazon, or you can get volume discounts at dflame.com. You can click right here, read more, and you can get your volume discounts if you wish. And of course, you can see up here the social media spots you can follow on. So if you're not subscribed to this channel and you've gotten this far in the video, you can just click. The first time you're here, you can just click right on there, or you're already watching, you can just click subscribe and you'll get updated for whenever I do videos. All right, so I'm ending it right here. So if you're going to do this carnivore thing, read Stefansson's work. You can get the books and you can get the article that I cited earlier on and learn about this and do it properly.